Chodesh Tov, my friends. Today we're going to learn mציעא Daf Aleph. Before I start, I'd just like to make a small prayer. We spoke about this in the past, about how Rab Nachman talks about the tefillah of Torah when you pray after you learn, and also before you learn, to be matzliach in Torah, to understand, to remember, to keep, is a very, very high thing that a person could do in the world. So we're going to say a small prayer. I'm very grateful first that it's 100 days into Bava Kama, into Bava Mציעא, and we're going strong. And so we'll pray that we should be zoche to understand their stuff well and to keep the halachas on it and to learn with other people and to enjoy it. And in general, our learning, we should do chazara and enjoy and be omel b'Torah. Says a Mishnah, we're going to start Kuf Amud Beis. Someone sold his olive trees to cut them down for firewood. But also, and the guy was the buyer who bought the firewood, took his time. And meanwhile, also, and they grew more olives, but very bad olives. And we take a full saw of olives and you only get out of oil less than a revis. Aryeh, the one who bought the olive trees, they belong to him, these olives. Also, if they grew so much that from a saw you can make good olives, that you can make at least a revis, the one who owned the zaysim said it belongs to me, I bought the zaysim. The other one says, no, without my land you couldn't have anything. Says the Mishnah, Shotaf nor zeis of a new case. Shotaf nor zeis of a Reuven had these olive trees. A river came, uprooted them, and put them into Shimon's field. The Reuven says, it's my olives that came the olives out, they belong to me. And Shimon says, no, without my land you'd have no olives. Says a Mishnah, what's the case of the Mishnah? If he told him, when Reuven bought these trees from Shimon told him you have to cut it straight away. Even if it's Asur it should go to Balakarka. He shouldn't have delayed his trees in Shimon's field. The boy's coit. If he told him, the seller told the buyer, whenever you want, you could cut it off, you could take your time. Even if we brought some good olives that bring out the reverse of oil, the balazesim, he's allowed to keep in the field. Says the Gemara, he didn't agree how long he has to leave these trees in the field. The owner of the field, okay, he left it in the field for a little bit and brought bad olives, whatever, keep it. Revis, but if it's good olives, the owner of the field, what do you mean you left it here? I want to be part of that. Amar Shimon and Pazi. Revis, this revis that we said that from a revis he needs to split with the Baal Asade is talking about Kufale from Udalef, Chutz Menoitzo. When we take out the expenses, when you take it, let's say, to the press, they charge 20% of the oil, so we're not counting the revis, all what came out, only the profits. Shosaf nor zeisov, Omar Ula, Omar Ishlokish Loishonu, this is not talking about Elo Shenekru Begusheim. Ve'lachar Shonim, two conditions you need for this thing. That first of all, that they got uprooted with a piece of earth that they could live like that, not in the land, even like in a pot. And therefore, they're not chayv orla, because if they didn't have a piece of earth, it's as if they're a new seed that needs to wait 3 years and then neterevai. And it also has to be after 3 years. But in the 3 years, everyone all goes to the landlord, to the person who owned the land. The landowner tells the tree owner, if you had planted, the owner of the trees tells the landowner, if you'd plant olives now, you couldn't eat yet because it's Arla. So now you have new trees that are mine. In those 3 years, the only reason why we could eat them because it was a piece of earth of mine. So those 3 years I'm eating by myself. Said the Gemara, the landowner should tell the olive owner, if I'd plant after 3 years, I did it all, because I wouldn't have a shutuf. Now after 3 years we have to split. What did he benefit me? I could have put it small plants that cost very cheap 3 years ago, and why should I have to split it with you? Says the Gemara, Elok, he also Rabin Omer Rish Lakish. When Rabin came, he said in the name of Rish Lakish a different chat. When did we say that they split the olive owner and the landowner, that it's in Begushem, that there's no problem of Orla, and it's in the 3 years? Avalachar Shalosh, but after 3, Akalabalakarka, the landowner all goes to him because he could have planted olives and it would all be his. If I'd plant new trees, I'd eat it all. Said the Gemara, the olive tree man should tell the land owner, if you'd plant it in the 3 years, you wouldn't eat anything in the first 3 years. Why are you getting 3 now, half with me? In the first 3 years, Aryeh Shlokish explained that the Mishnah is talking by Yachloiku. The first 3 years, why are you getting anything? If you planted, you wouldn't get anything because it's Orla. Says the Gemara, Mishum da Omalei, the landowner says, if I would plant, I would plant small trees, aveketini, and I could have planted next to them, underneath them, silka v'yarka, types of vegetables and gains from the land. Now I have this big tree over here, I can't plant anything underneath. So I want to get part of the olives, even in the first 3 years. Tana, it says in the Brisa, Oma alo veisani noisel, if the olive owner says, I want my trees back, I'm digging them out the land and I'm going to put them back in my land, they belong to me. We don't listen to him. My time, because we're scared he might pull them out and not put them in his own ground. Now they're in the ground, and the mitzvah to have trees in Eretz Yisrael, that he should be Yashvasiya, we should all be zoicha to plant lots of trees in Eretz Yisrael and take care of trees, and be zoicha for the Geula. It says that Bisman a Geula, there'll be planted lots of trees. Omar Rav Irmiyah, you're going there for such an explanation of Rabbi Yochanan, who explains why, if he says you need a great person like Rabbi Yochanan to explain you the pshat and the brisa, because otherwise we wouldn't know. Now, also we learned elsewhere, Rabbi Yehuda Oima, Amikabel Soda Avois Nochri, someone who accepts in Arisus. That means he goes and works the field, and he pays the owner a percentage. But it's the Soda Avoisa Min Nochri, and we're soon going to explain what the Soda Avoisa means. But he's a Oris for this Nochri. Maisa, he has to give Maisa on the whole produce. So let's say he has to give the Nochri, let's say 50%, and there's 100 kilos. So he has to give Maisa, Truma Maisa, let's say Maisa is 10%. He has to give 10 on the whole produce, not only on his half. And then give him the full 50% of as if it was a full amount. So Vura, the Bnei Yeshiva thought, my Soda Avoisa, what does that mean? Eretz Yisrael, it means any land in Eretz Yisrael that is owned by Nochri now. But my Korloi Soda Avoisa, who is the Avoisa that we call a Soda Avoisa? Soda Avram, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, the lands of our forefathers that we all come from. The Kosova and the Brisa holds, the Mishnah holds, there's no such a massive that Goy could own land in Eretz Yisrael that you won't be chayav trumas u'maisrus. Umikabel, and someone who goes into Arisus to give a percentage, is like a renter. Who rents a land for a certain amount, £1,000 a year, he has to give that £1,000, and it's nothing to do with his trumas u'maisrus. So also, by a Mekabel is the same din. So the Gemara, he has a owner, he owns a choika, a renter, owns £1,000. It's nothing to do with the produce that come out from the field. Af Mekabel also Aris, Nami Kippura, when he pays his 50%, therefore, and therefore the loan is the goy doesn't have any shaykhs in this land. I owe him 50%, but nothing to do in the land, and therefore I have to give Maisa on everything. Omali Rav Kana Rav Popi v'amul Rav Zvid Elo Hodetani Rav Yehuda Oima. It says in the Brisa, Rav Yehuda says, "Amikabel Soda Avoito." Someone who takes the Soda Avoito of me matzik. A matzik is an honor. Someone who forces He's like a robber. Nochri, mimatzik nochri, ma'isa v'noisinu. The same brayta, but it says adds over here the mimatzik. My iriamatzik, lefidus v'ora, they told me the soda voice of means soda Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov. So why dafka from Anos? Afilu ein matzik from any goy. Nami the same din should apply. Elo lo'ilom for sure. Yeshkinin nochri b'Eretz Yisrael afkia ma'ad ma'isa. Really, a guy who owns land in Eretz Yisrael, that's it. That land is not mechuyev b'maisos. Umichabe lav k'choy kedomi. And if you want to tell me ein kinyan, I'll tell you that at least the mikabe lav k'choy kedomi. One of these two things Rashi explains. Oh, yesh kinyan and ochre Eretz Yisrael. Oh, mikabe lav k'choy ke, and therefore the guy what grows his 50% is literally his. It never became the Jews at any moment. Umay soda voice of what is soda voice of? We mean soda voice of mamish, literally a field that used to belong to his ancestors that he knows from the close history. Especially him, because he's a grandson, a kid, or whatever, that from the family that used to own this land, they made the knas, he has to give more maisa. The idea, the chaviva alei, since he has a connection to this land, his family used to be in this land, he'll accept it even though he has to give maisa on the whole produce. But a person who's oris for nochri, he doesn't need to, because he'll never accept it, and therefore it won't be worth it for him. Because and make a din, you don't need, or because yeshkinin nochri, or because mikabel is lav k'choika. Uli didei my time konsu. Why did we? A grandson or son of a person who used to own this land, why do we give him a knas? He has to pay the maisa. So the Gemara didei my time konsu rabbanon. Amar Rabbi Yochanan kidei shetiye bara biyodoi. Kidei shetiye brura biyodoi. Bara is meloshan clear. He should buy it. And that means because he's going to pay this extra price and he really likes the land, he's going to make all he could do to buy this land back off the goy. Omer Rabbi Irmiyah could go indoors, such a case where we have a Mishnah and we need to explain Pshat in Mishnah, and Rabbi Yochanan explained it. We need a great person like Rabbi Yochanan. Said the Gemara, Itmar, ayored letoch sadeh chavero v'nata shelo bereshut. Someone who went into his friend's field without permission and he planted trees over there. Amarav, Shamim lo ve'yado ala tachtona. We estimate how much investment went in, how much it went up in price, and he gets the lower of the options. If the investment's higher than the profit, he gets the profit. And if the profit is higher than the investment, he gets investment. No. We estimate at such a field how much a person is willing to pay to get the trees planted, and that's how much you have to pay. It's not machloikis. If it's a type of field where it's good for trees, he has to pay the higher price. The price that we said that how much you pay for a guy to come do the job. When do we say they get the lower price, the guy went in without permission, in a field that's not meant to be planted trees? Said more of a Hoderav, this psak of Rav Labi Ferishitma, he never said it clearly. We learn it from a story. This person came in front of Rav. Amarle, Zil Shumle. It was a case like we spoke, and someone went in without permission and planted trees. So Rav said, go pay the value that went up. I mean, how much you'd pay for a gardener to plant your field. Amarle, loy beina. He said, I don't want trees in my field. Amarle, so Rav told him, Zil Shalem Leviyad ala Tachtona. Okay, you still need to pay, but just a lower price, all the profit, all the investment, the lower of the both. Amarle loy beina. I don't want these trees whatsoever. Lasoif, at the end, Chazia de Godro v'komiantela. We saw that the person put a gate around it and he's guarding the field. Amarle, so he told him, Galita daitech yomigale denichalach, that you're happy with this. Otherwise, you wouldn't put the fence and guard this field. Zul shumle, v'yod al. Go pay him the higher, like you pay gardeners in town to do the job. Itmar, we learned, someone who goes into the churva of his friend. and he builds it. Ubona, shaloi b'rishusay, without permission. V'omar lo eitzei v'avona ani noite. Now he says, you don't want me to live here. I'm taking my stones and wood I built as churva. I don't want you to have a house. You're not letting me live here. I'm taking it. Rav Nachman Omar shoyim lo, we listen to him. Rav Sheshes Omar ain't shoyim lo, we don't listen to him. Meisi ve'Rav Shimon Gamliel Oima. Bishamai omrim shoyim lo, Bishamai hold, we listen to him. Bisiloim ain't shoyim lo, and the Rav Nachman who says shoyim lo is like Rav Bishamai. Said the Gemara, Leimer Rav Nachman Doma ke Bishamai, and we don't pass like Bishamai. So the Rav Nachman no ali bedilchasa. So the Gemara, Udoma ki Aitani, he learns like a different price as the Tanya. Shoyim lo, Divu Rav Shimon and Rav Shimon and other hold that everyone say shoyim lo, and there's no machloikis, and it fits in exactly like Rav Nachman. Rav Shimon Gamliel lo that the machloikis. Bishamim shoyim lo, Bisiloim reim shoyim lo. But Rav Nachman holds like Rav Shimon and other that there's no machloikis. So the Gemara, my avalo, what's a psak? Omar Rav Yaakov, Omar Rav Yochanan, bebayis. If it's a house, shoyim lo, we let him take his stone and his wood and break the house. Besoda ain't shoyim lo, we feel we don't listen to him. Said the Gemara, Besoda my time, what's the reason? Mishum Eretz Yisrael. Because Eretz Yisrael, we want the trees to stay there. And it's very interesting that for the trees, we make more of an effort than a house. I'll think a house is more Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. We see if a house, we less choishes than for trees. Some people say that by a land you don't listen to him because if he takes out the land, they ruin the land because of the tree, and now you're taking it out, it makes the land weaker. My binai, what's the difference between if you say because of Eretz Yisrael or because the weakness of the land? Ike binai chutz l'oretz, and afkamina will be what's the din in chutz l'oretz if the reason is because Eretz Yisrael, so now you don't have the reasons he could take his trees back. And if the reason is because weakening the land, also in chutz l'oretz you're weakening the land, so you can't take the trees back. Says a Mishnah, a maskir b'ayis lechavar b'moisak shomim, someone who rents a house to his friend for the winter days. That's how we understand it in the Mishnah. We'll see in the Gemara a different pshat. But he told him, I'm renting you for the winter. Inu yochol ha'atzir min ha'chag v'ad ha'pesach, from Sukkot till Pesach, he can't kick him out. Because that's a winter. B'moisak hama, if he told him for the summer, shloishim yom, he could give him a 30 days notice. Uvekrochim in the big cities, echad b'moisak hama, echad b'moisak shom, doesn't matter in the summer, doesn't matter in the winter, shneim asar chodesh, 12 months notice before you kick out your tenant. V'chanuyo in shops, echad ayoros, doesn't matter if it's villages, v'echad krochim, doesn't matter if it's big cities, shnei v'asar chodesh, you have to give notice before you kick out your commercial tenant in a shop, 12 months. Reb Shimon Gamliel lo mechanushin achtoimim, if it's a shop of like a bakery, v'shel tzaboyim, or painters, shalosh shonim, you have to give him 3-year notice before you kick him out. And the reason is, the Gemara is going to explain, because they would give money on credit for a long time, so they need time to get all the credit back, and then 3 years is enough time. Says the Gemara, what's the difference if I rent out for the winter? Like we understand that in the winter, if a person rents it for the winter, he means it for the whole winter. Yeah, we don't go the girls over here, the chsav yad without the dalet. Ki oga inish beisa lekulu yumoisachamo. Oga. Also in the summer, if someone's renting it for the whole summer, he's renting it for the whole summer. How could you kick him with his 30 days notice? Elo, says the Gemara, it's hard to find a house to rent, and therefore you could leave him in, you can't kick him out in the middle of the winter. But the summer, it's easy to find, so you can kick him out with 30 days notice. So the Gemara, let's look in the Sefer of this Mishnah. The Krochim in big cities, also in the summer, also in the winter, 12 months. But if the 12 months notice was given in the winter, so 12 months from that is back in the winter, you kick him out. How could you do that? He doesn't have where to move to. No one rents out houses in the winter. He shouldn't be allowed to give a 12-month notice that ends in the winter. Omer of Yudoloi Duaktoni. The whole pshat in the Mishnah, a whole different pshat. It's not talking about where you rent it out for the winter or you rent it out for the summer. It's somewhere where you rent it out stam. And how much notice do you have to give before you kick him out? So let's see it inside. We didn't tell him for what period of time. In the winter, you can't give him any notice and kick him out. Only if you let him know 30 days before the winter started that at this date in the winter I'm kicking you out, so he has enough time to find a house now, or he knows he's getting kicked out in the middle of the winter, it's his issue. And that's Pshat in the Mishnah. Tanya Nami Ochi, we have a brayso that proves that this is Pshat in the Mishnah. When we talk about 30 days, when we talk about 12 months, it's not talking about the contract that they had. It means to say how long notice is the shortest to give a tenant that you want out of your house. Like the landlord has to let the tenant know that you need to leave, also the tenant needs to let the landlord if he's leaving. That the landlord could tell the tenant, if I have enough time in advance that you're leaving, I'd work hard, I'd get someone, a good tenant to move in, because I'd have time to look for. But now you suddenly tell me you're moving out, I have to find a tenant from now to pay my mortgage, it might be not such a good tenant. If he's already the tenant's in one day in the winter days, you can't kick him out. All the way from Sukkot to Pesach. Didn't we say they need to tell him 30 days before the winter? Here he's saying only one day in, then he can't kick him out. Before we said they need to tell him 30 days before the winter even starts. If he's there one day, from the winter days, from the 30 days before the winter days, can't kick him out. He has to wait all the way until after Pesach till he can kick him out. If he wants to put up the price for the rental, he can put it up. If he's allowed to put up the rent, he's going to double it 10 times more. And it's like grabbing a person in his balls and forcing him to do something. That's obviously he's going to move out. You can't kick him out, but you can put up the rent. It doesn't make any sense. You kick him out. So the Gemara, no, we need the case where we said he could put up the rent. If the prices went up, you're allowed to put up the rent, even though you can't kick him out. But to put up the rent, if that's the market value, you're allowed. Something more pshita, it's simple, that there's not even a shaila. If nofal basis, someone's house fell, the landlord's house fell, and now he's also stuck and doesn't have where to live. So you could say, you could tell the tenant, leave right now without notice, you don't have where to rent. I also don't have where to live. This is my house, leave and you find where to rent. Zabne, if he sold it, or Orte, or he yarshened it, or Yavim, Antoni gave her a present, it's poshut that the dinner is that the tenant could tell one of those three people, like he couldn't kick me out, you can't kick me out. But he wants to give it to his son for a wedding hall. And we look, if he could have let him know before, he knew his son's getting married, he should have let him know before. If he didn't know about it and couldn't let him know before, I'm stuck, my son needs a place to live, please leave. Gavra, this man, he brought, if I understand correctly, means a ship full of wine. He didn't have where to put it. He went to that woman who had a warehouse. Do you have a place to rent for me? No. He went, he got engaged to her. She opened it, told him, by the way, the warehouse for my husband is available. He went back home, euro to get. He sent it to her. Now he has a place for his wine. She went, she rented porters. From the wine itself, she took the money to rent the porters. She took out all the wine from the warehouse, and she put in the path. Omar of Huna brother of Yeshua, this is the good, she did okay. Kasher also, like he did, Kenny also loy. He got paid back. Mulo Yoshi Baroishoy. Not only for if this warehouse she never rents out, and therefore she could say, I only gave it to you because you got engaged to me. But even Ella afilu chotza de kaim agra, this warehouse she normally rents out. So how could he kick out? No, Omrlei, she could tell him, Lekula alma, to the whole world, I'm happy to rent this warehouse too. But you not. Why? The domis olai Aryeh arba, you look like a coaching or a lion on the floor going to catch someone. You swindle me. Get out. Take your wine. If it's a shop of bread or of painters, you need to give notice 3 years before you could get the tenant out. Tana and Seven Bryce, the reason is because they give a lot of a hekef, a lot of credit to the customers. They need time to claim back their credit. Today, we're starting tomorrow. Today's Rosh Chodesh. Tomorrow on Shabbos we read Parshas Bamidbar, and Parshas Bamidbar it says many times Gilguloisem, and they say it means Gilgulim, that people have Gilgulim. And one of the hardest things sometimes in life is to understand Tzaddik Viraloi, Rosh V'Toivloi. What's chat? Good people are suffering and bad people are doing so well. With Gilgulim, it's a lot easier to understand because we don't really know what happened to our neshama in last round. It makes things much more tangible and acceptable. Everyone should have a very good Shabbos with Shabbat Shalom, and we should have Shalom between Am Yisrael. We should have a month of Kabbalah Satorah, of Sfira Sa'ima, and connect to Hashem and talk to Hashem and be happy. Be zeicher for Eliyahu to come very soon, to be the Eshiv Ovois Al Bonim, Bonim Al Avoisa.